Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Well, good evening, friends, and welcome to Nightcast for this Tuesday evening. The opening story for tonight, April 14. We'll get to that in a moment. Let me explain real quickly that we were signing on late tonight for a couple of reasons, one of which, and we have abandoned for tonight doing the live event YouTube live streaming, because YouTube sent us a signal saying we're not giving them enough upstream. They required us to do a backup URL, and when we did that, we learned that we've got to have a higher upstream speed. I'll have to order that from the internet company tomorrow and see how fast they can put it in for us. But news-wise, opening story for this April 14, ceremonies are being staged around the world to mark 1 year since more than 200 girls were abducted from Chibok by the Nigerian militant Islamist group Boko Haram. A procession is being held in the capital Abuja, with 219 girls taking part to represent each missing girl. The BBC's Abdullah Kari Abubakar joined the protesters.
Of Abuja, parents, relations, and friends of the Chibok girls have gathered to mark this important day. Each of these young school girls represents one of the 219 girls still missing. What they are saying is that the government has not done enough to find and bring them home. In 1 month, Nigeria will have a new president. General Buhari has said he can't promise he will find the girls. The 219 Chibok girls is just a small number out of the hundreds of girls and women still missing in the Northeast. But they are a powerful symbol of how the government has handled the crisis. Until they are found, this group has vowed they will not be forgotten.
Friends, you know, he mentioned how the government is handling things there. Our next story will show something about how a government, or a branch of all the world's, or several of the world's governments, the United Nations, is handling something. And basically, in the doing of how that government's handling their situation and how the UN is attempting to handle things will all add up to write the score of the history of mankind in 6,000 years. And in the 6,000 years that God has allotted man to go his own way and to write the lessons of human history about how man governs himself. And the bottom line of it is going to say, without God, man was just not able to govern himself. That'll be the bottom line of it, especially when Christ has to intervene at the last moment. Else no flesh on this earth would be saved alive, because mankind would have annihilated all mankind. But there is a little bit of lightness in this next story that with the problems that we've had today trying to work to get the broadcast working on the live stream on YouTube, it's kind of nice to relax, have something just a little bit light tonight. James Bond actor Daniel Craig has accepted a new role appointed by the United Nations. Mr. Craig will become the first global advocate for the administration of mines and explosive hazards. Well, here, I'm gonna let the news report tell you about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome Mr. Daniel Craig to the United Nations. Today we are very much encouraged that we are going to nominate him, appoint him as a global advocate of the United Nations United Nations Global Advocate for the elimination of mines and explosive hazard. He's known as 007 James Bond. I'm 008 United Nations Secretary General James Bond. I'm very happy that you have agreed to use your global star power to raise awareness and global action to destroy mines which have been killing many people. You have been given license to kill. I'm now giving you a license to save.
Thank you very much.
All right, friends, and we'll see what comes of that. There was a story in today's news from Ukraine about a reporter from Russia stepping back behind a building and stepping on a mine, and the reporter was being blown up. How ironic, in a way, that this appointment is made, and that on the day that the appointment is made, a reporter in Ukraine, a Russian reporter in Ukraine, gets blown up by a mine that he stepped on. This next story relates to something I want to show you a scripture from. It'll be the last story we do tonight. We're doing a short evening while we try to get things in the studio and involving this program to working a little better and working properly. A crocodile bites a golfer who lost his ball on an Australian course.
I drove the cart around there to retrieve the ball, and I didn't see the croc sunbaking just on the edge of the water, and I walked past it, and then it got me on the way back.
We do have quite a few golf courses up here with small crocodiles resident, and that is simply because small crocodiles don't like living with big crocodiles. So they get away from mum and dad as soon as possible and find security on golf courses and small creeks. In my opinion, the managers of the golf course have done the responsible thing by putting up signs. It's extremely difficult to catch small crocodiles out of ponds such as those at the golf course.
Friends, it was Jeff McClure, a man who was 75 years old, who was bitten on the leg as he played a round of golf at the Palmer Sea Reef course in Port Douglas, Queensland. As you heard, he explained what happened in this video. And while this video was playing, friends, I was able to find the story about the Ukraine, about the Russian reporter in Ukraine who was injured when he stepped on a mine there. There has been a surge in fighting between government troops and pro-Russian rebels in eastern Ukraine, despite diplomatic efforts to maintain a ceasefire. Now, I don't have video of this at this moment, but Tom Burridge, BBC reporter, was traveling with a group of ceasefire monitors from the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, to a village near the port of Mariupol when fighting broke out, and Russian reporter that was there went behind a building, stepped on a mine, and was injured. Perhaps we'll have more on this story tomorrow night. But I have a scripture that relates to that last story where the golfer in Australia, in Queensland, was bitten on the leg by a crocodile. And it just reminds me, I can point out, let's put our chart up on the screen, that one of the things that Christ said would happen when he gave a description of the seals through John in Revelation 6. Now, he explained the seals in plain language in Matthew 24, but in Revelation 6, he depicted these seals with symbols. And let's go in on these seals for a moment. You'll see the fourth column over has a pale green colored horse at the top. The fourth seal is depicted by a pale horse, and the word for pale is a word that has the meaning green associated with it. So we've used a pale green color. And the rider of this horse is named Death, and the scriptures in Revelation 6 say that alongside this pale horse and its rider named Death rides Hades, hell, the grave. It follows with the horse and its rider. And Jesus Christ described the activities of this horse in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, primarily as loimus, meaning disease epidemics, pestilence, the plagues of Egypt. He also said that between the third and the fifth seal there would be seismus, seismic activity, seismic conditions, commotions in the air, commotions on the ground, and that there would be terake, troubled waters, roiling waters, both literally and figuratively. In the figurative sense, mobs and seditions. And, let's see, I just see a note saying we've lost the connection to our server. Well, I don't know where we will be with the broadcast, but we continue to get that message. And I tell you what we can try to do. I can try to make a very quick on-air correction to this as we're ending the program. Let me see. I can cut off two of the encoders, and maybe we'll salvage the tail end of our broadcast here. Check your connection with the internet and try again. Well, we may not be on the internet, but I think we may still be recording, so I can put the recording up into the archive. And so I'm going to go ahead and finish up my comments and end the program. I've got a scripture I want to show you. This pale horse is described in Revelation 6 with scripture, with a reference in the scripture that I want to show you. Let's go to the screen for that. I'm going to bring this full forward and just read this to you, where it's describing the pale horse in verse 8 of Revelation 6. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. In other words, the one that sits on that horse is the rider of that horse. And Hades, the word for hell here is Hades, followed with him. And then there's kind of a reference back to both to three of the horses, to the red horse, the black horse, and this pale horse. And power was given unto them, these three horses, over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the red horse sword, with the black horse hunger, and with this fourth seal horse, the pale horse, with death. And then it tags on here, and with the beast of the earth. Now, something we'll need to do, I'll try to do this more thoroughly tomorrow night. I think maybe I can do a very quick look tonight. You might want to take a quick look with me. I wish I had something where some of you that can send a text message or something could just flash it up at me on the screen if you find this faster than I do. But if you look in Matthew 24, where it's Christ in plain language is describing these seals, or the horses for the seals, he says in verse 7, where he's talking about the red horse, for nation, he's continuing his talk from verse 6 about the red horse. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And then he goes into describing the third seal, the black horse, where he says, and there shall be famines. That's the plain language explanation of the black horse from verse 3 of Revelation 6. Or I should say not verse 3, but the third seal mentioned and described in Revelation 6. And then he goes to the fourth seal of Revelation 6 in plain language, saying, again in verse 7 of Matthew 24, and pestilences. And then he describes this fourth seal further, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. And I was just looking to see if in plain language anywhere the wild animals that the beast of the earth that's mentioned in the very last few words of verse 8 of Revelation 6, just to see if there's a cross-reference in the Gospels. We would have to look not only at Matthew 24, but the parallel chapters, Mark 13 and Luke 21, also, to see if there's some mention of wild animals that relates back to Revelation 6 in those two parallel chapters. And I'll just take a quick look in Mark 13 real quickly. I should do this much more thoroughly and carefully, and I'll try to do this before tomorrow night. Trying to do this while we're on there live, just making me stall closing the program out tonight. So I'll do that between tonight and tomorrow night, something perhaps we can look forward to. Friends, thank you for joining me for this shorter report tonight, this Tuesday night. God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll be back again tomorrow night, Wednesday night. We'll appreciate your prayers that we can get the things worked out with the faster internet speed we need in order to do the live stream. Also on YouTube, we do it on another channel that many of you are familiar with. If you're watching it live, especially you are, you can get to it through our main webpage, cogtv.org. But we're also planning to put it on the YouTube channel that we have, so that you can, if you get a better signal on via YouTube, you can watch it there. And we hope to have that on by beginning of next week, maybe even by tomorrow night. We'll see. God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll be back tomorrow night with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy right here on Nightcast. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long and good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.